I have no idea where I actually got this book. This is Why We Can't Sleep. Here's the subtitle though. Women's New Midlife Crisis by Ada Calhoun. I'm not a woman, clearly. I might be in the midlife crisis age range. I'm actually in the midlife crisis age range, she quotes here, on everything from generation to the actual decade of my life, which is my 40s, 41 right now. But I'm not a woman. So I have no idea how this came across my radar. I have no link to it from any other book. I have nothing. I just got an email from the library that said, hey, your book's here. And I said, oh, okay. And I picked it up and this is the book I got. Now, that doesn't mean it was bad. That doesn't mean it was bad. I enjoyed the read still, but we'll get to that. Before we do, I want to let you know there's a couple ways to support the channel. I just noticed that. Okay, I just thought it was like black with like some sploochy thing on the front. It's actually faces. Just noticed that. Do you see the faces? You do now because I said it. Anyway, a couple ways to support the channel. Number one is to go to patreon.com/CurtisMcHale, become a patron. Number two is to go to one of the links below to Skillshare. You can actually find Skillshare anyways by going to curtismchale.ca/Skillshare. But all the links to my courses are below. The one you might like the best is on getting started with Zettelkasten, which is how I take my notes. Buckle up and let's talk about women's midlife crisis, or the ideas anyways. One of the interesting ideas early on, I don't know what page was, it's around page 54, was that women were told in the 80s that they could have it all, and so they really adopted the idea that they should have it all, that if they didn't have it all, they were somehow failing. She had a great line, and it went something like that despite having, a decent career, having some kids, having, not murdering the kids, not becoming a serial killer, you get upset because, there's some other thing you didn't have. Your car is not quite as nice as you had hoped, or you're not as top in your field as you had originally thought and planned. So you do not have it all, and then you fault yourself for that. When I looked at that, I actually thought it was very close to some of the ideas in deep work. Specifically on page 64, it talks about product or busyness as a proxy for productivity because there's no clear markers of success. In knowledge work, there's a lot of not clear markers in success. So even though I say on YouTube or in book reviews, what's my actual marker of success? That a whole bunch of people commented on that, or that I'm making a certain amount of money, or what is the success? And you see that in a lot of knowledge work. There's not a clear marker that if you churn out 50 widgets today, sure, like when you're actually making physical things, 50 widgets today is success. Speeding up that process is success, but in a lot of knowledge work, there's not. And because of that, we focus on looking busy on the surface, on looking busy so we look productive, which actually, again, tied into stillness is the key. Specifically page 87, where Ryan Holiday says something along the lines of, we focus on the surface and making sure it looks super still and calm, while below the surface is boiling with monsters. To summarize it and take my own spin on it, in the vain hope that none of this turmoil will bubble to the surface for other people to see. And that, like those ideas, I think just really went well with this. That it's hard to choose, it's hard to see where you have succeeded, and so it doesn't feel like you ever say have it all in air quotes. And at the same time, coming from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s we're in now, an interesting idea from Josh Levs in the book All In was that, while women have done more in the workforce hasn't accommodated men in any way, and men haven't accommodated men in really any way to step into this role of a caregiver, of doing more around the house, like women want them to, like men want to, and I think in many ways. Men do a lot more, but they still often do not do as much as women. And this even made me think of a lot of the bossware we're seeing right now, right? Where people are having to work at home, and there's been an explosion of bossware. There's actually a link down below to an EFF article on it that I read recently. An explosion of bossware, which is basically monitoring your computer, taking a screenshot every so often, taking a picture with your video camera every so often, monitoring the audio in your house every so often to make sure that you don't steal productivity from your company by, maybe watching your kids, because they also have to be home. I find this funny, not funny, ironic, terrible, because especially, again, link below, that since 1980, worker productivity has continued to basically skyrocket at the same time as wages have stagnated. And before 1980 and 1970, depending on the study you look at, those worker productivity and worker pay actually kind of went together. So bosses are continuing to watch and make sure that you keep all that productivity to themselves while not recognizing, again, I'm talking about men, I guess I say men specifically, or I guess men to me, not specifically, because I'm sure this happens to women too. I know this happens to women too. But making sure that, not acknowledging that there is a family to be taken care of as well. They just want your productivity. They don't want to know about your family. They just want your productivity. And that sucks. I'm actually really happy. I've just started working for a company, and like when a kid pops in, like everyone talks to the kid for a while when a kid pops in. Like that's really seen as delightful and great. And I've had a kid, there's been a kid in almost every meeting from somebody. And it's good. And everyone's like, well, let me see your kid. Like I've taken my headphones out to give to my kid when my kid's been in, even in my first week, because everyone thought that was great. Now, another key idea that I've seen in lots of different things lately is that we let kids be lazy. We really let them be lazy. And we don't require major chores out of them on any level like they've had for hundreds of years before. Page 69 in Why We Can't Sleep talked about this. 50 years ago, you may be driving a tractor by the time you're 12 or 13. You would have had chores around the house to help clean. You would have had animals to feed. Like other things like this would have had to happen around your house because your parents weren't going to do it all, because you had to help, because you were a contributing member of this family really early. And we've really taken that away. Again, at the same time, looking at Selfish Reasons to Have Kids. I think that was by Brian Kaplan. Definitely, the link's down below, so you can find that. But Selfish Reasons to Have Kids. Oh, it says by Brian Kaplan in the URL. We no longer just send our kids out to play. We actually really overparent ourselves because we feel that we have to be there with the kids all the time. And in part we feel that because of our city design. I'm just reading more about that. I'm reading Strong Towns, which you can't see it over my shoulder, but it's back there right now. City design. And the short version is that the less walkability you have in a city, the less people are out, and then the more everyone feels like kids are just going to be unsafe. At the same time, kids are just safer than ever. Safer than ever. But we are out with kids all the time. And then to pull from designing your life, we have less community groups that we are involved in, right? Less people are going to church, so you don't have that, food drive when you have a baby to support you. You don't have the youth, sometimes just saying, hey, bring the kids, we're going to entertain the kids, and the adults can have food. It's $5 a head, and they're doing a fundraiser for something. And the church is usually, in that case, donating the food. So we don't have those things. We don't see, all the neighbors gathered around an engine or throwing a family barbecue in the area. That just doesn't happen. So we don't have these networks that make us feel connected, make us feel okay with doing a little bit of parenting of other people's children when we see them. See them doing something, just making sure, hey, like, where are you going? You're safe? Awesome. Good. Have a good day. Not like you're, watching them drastically. So that means kids have to stay inside and be monitored by an adult, unless an adult can go outside and watch them. And adults have to spend so much more time parenting than they have in the past. And at the same time, neighbors are more likely to be calling police. And there's actually a link below about a guy in Vancouver who just won his court case because his, 11 through 8-year-olds, 4 of them were riding the bus together. And he had spent 2 years slowly training them in the Ministry of Children's Resources, or whatever it's called up here. Said basically you can't do that. And the judge said, no, ministry, you can't do that. You can suggest, but parents don't have to take your advice. And you can't just take their kids away because they're doing something like riding the bus. This is totally fine. But the parent didn't make sure the kids were okay and talked to them. They called the ministry and said, these children are clearly terrible. This is clearly terrible because an unwatched child is a tragedy. Free range kids for that one. And an unwatched child is not a tragedy. An unwatched child is someone gaining maturity that can then move on into the rest of their life because they've had little opportunities to have failures, to make decisions, and then to live with the consequences of them when they're out. And finally, let's look at Ada Calhoun said that it's really easy for women, we'll get to why this is for women, to get to a point in their life where they look around at each individual choice they made in their purchases and kind of where they live and everything seemed right at the time to make. And at the same time, the culmination of all these decisions is at a place where they do not want to be. That's page 122. They're living a life they never wanted to live. And by the time they realize that, often there's literally nothing they can do anymore because they are shackled to financial responsibilities that they must take because of that. At the same time, she also said around page 137 that a lot of Gen X women in midlife crisis say that they really feel their husbands have taken a backseat and their husbands are not participating in any family level decisions. So that basically it's all their fault that they're in this position now because their husbands have taken a backseat. Yeah, I think those are the big three ideas that I found and really stuck and gravitated to when I took my notes on this using Zettelkasten method, course below. Now the question is, should you read it? I think yes, almost yes for anyone. If you are a woman in midlife crisis of the Gen X era, then probably this is a really good one. It's a really good reminder overall, though, that humans are not meant to be content all the time, and that the carefully curated lives that you see of everyone else is a lie. It's totally a lie. They're just as messed up as you are. Right now, I may look all happy and, hey, Cree's doing good. My eyes hurt. Actually, I'm so tired. My eyes hurt. And it is only 8 o'clock on a Saturday. My kid yelled at us all night, my oldest one. And she's a wonderful kid many times, but tonight was a tough night. So that carefully curated life you get to see sometimes just is not actually real. And we're not always content. And no one around you is always content. So it's a good reminder of that everyone is going through this. So I'm going to say yes, maybe. I think if you're a dude in midlife crisis, maybe not. If you're looking for like an extra read on why, if you're married to a woman in midlife crisis, this is a good one too. There are lots of good reasons to do this, but I'm not sure to say this is a top pick necessarily. Really, that's it. If you liked the video, thumbs up below. If you loved it, subscribe, hit the bell, and YouTube should let you know that a video has come out when it comes out. Other ways to support the channel are, number one, to become a patron at patreon.com/CurtisMcHale. Patrons actually get my Skillshare courses for free, and they get to see me develop the notes on them. Other thing you can do is to join us on Discord. We actually just picked a book. We picked, what was it? The Organized Mind. I don't know who that's by right now. Let me look at my shelf. Daniel J. Letvin. The Organized Mind just got picked. Nobody knows this yet, but this video won't come out till weeks after. But we're actually doing this through Discord. So there's a book chat. We're going to do a monthly book chat. I think we'll try video. We'll see if people come up. But definitely in text, we'll read a book together for the month of March, and it's going to be The Organized Mind. That's it. I don't remember what else I said. Thumbs up. Thanks. Have a good day. I'm going to take a nap now.